franktalks.com.
Tonight is my first live broadcast of 2014. That's the first time I'm actually saying that out loud, 2014. And to kick off the new year, let's talk about the things we can do differently this year. We'll call them resolutions, if you will. So relationship resolutions. I want to do two parts tonight. The first part, I want to talk to married couples or people who have been in long-term relationships. The second part are the resolutions that single people can make, single people who are out there dating. And to do that, we will have Frank Kermit on the program. Since he is a dating coach, we'll ask him to give us his insights on what single people's resolutions can or should be, or some of the questions to ask. And then we'll talk to Frank Kermit about dating and dating resolutions for single people. What should single people resolve to do? But I also wanted to talk about and address the resolutions for people who are single and who are looking, who want to get married, or not get married, but get into a relationship or find a mate or find their soulmate or whatever it is. What do they need to do differently? What are some of the resolutions that they can make? And of course, would love to hear some of your thoughts as well, whether you're single or you're married, at 514-800, or that's a text, or you can call us at 514-790-0800. And to help us out with this is my good friend Frank Kermit. He's a dating coach and perfect person to talk about resolutions for single people. Frank, hi.
Hi, Dr. Laurie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It feels like it's been a while. No, it hasn't been that long. It just feels like it's been a long time.
Last time we were on together was last year. What are you talking about?
I know. It seems like so long ago. Anyway, you already got a text that says Happy New Year, Frank. So one of your fans wants to make sure you know this.
Well, Happy New Year to all of my fans. Thank you for that text.
So, Frank, what are some of the things that people are coming to you with or questioning around this time of year, especially if they're dating? And, I'm assuming people who come to you are having some kind of trouble or want some kind of guidance. What are they usually doing wrong that they actually need to resolve to do differently?
Well, this is a great time of year because everybody's very gung-ho and very energetic, and says they come meet with me and say, okay, let's plan the rest of the year. What should I be doing? And if I had to summarize everything that they should be doing in one sentence.
You can do that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
three
go.
Words. 3 words. Stop wasting time.
Okay. I like that.
When you are single or you're dating the wrong person right now and you want to better your love life, 3 simple words. Stop wasting time. That is the biggest mistake that singles are making around this time when they're trying to put together their New Year's resolutions. They have a list of things that they want to do, list of things they want to learn, and that's all good stuff. But it doesn't necessarily address the underlying issue, and that is they're putting time in the wrong places and not enough time into the areas where they might actually meet somebody new and take a chance on love.
So where are they putting their time exactly? And how much time is a waste? Because, what does that mean exactly?
Okay, let's use a few examples. Set a rule for yourself this year. When your ex calls you up because you both happen to be alone, if your goal is to find somebody that you want to marry by the end of the year, stop wasting time. Don't hang out with your ex for an evening. Use that evening to go out and try to meet somebody new.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hanging out with friends because it's somebody's birthday or it's a bunch of friends you haven't seen in a while, look, it's great to see your friends. But if your goal is to find somebody to be in a serious relationship with, or somebody that you want to date seriously before the end of the year, stop wasting time.
So you're saying that hanging out with your friends would be a waste of time? What if aren't your friends a potential source of finding a mate?
Not always. There's 2 very specific cases that I identify here. The first one is when the person has an interest in one of their friends that continually rejects them. And they're hoping, well, if I hang out with my friends, maybe this time around the person will agree to give me a chance. That's the first place a person is wasting their time.
Right, I can see that.
The second pool of friends is that sometimes it's the same pool of friends that you meet up with. A lot of them may already be in relationships or just not looking, or they have no interest in dating you. If that pool of friends is very tight-knit and they're not inviting in new people for you to meet, you're wasting your time hanging out with them. Go out, find your own life partner, find your own significant other, then bring that significant other back into that pool of friends. You don't have to cut them out completely. But for the period where you're going to make looking for someone a significant priority in your life, you can't waste your time hanging out with friends who are not in a position to introduce you to someone.
What do you respond to people who say, well, I shouldn't have to make such an effort, it should just happen, or it'll happen if it's meant to happen?
Okay, look, some people truly are naturally charismatic. Some people really are lucky enough that they just happen to be at the right place, the right time. They give off a really nice vibe, and they get all kinds of opportunities handed to them to meet new people.
So it's not difficult for them to meet new people,
Exactly.
is what you're saying.
Okay, so for those people, they can afford to wait and just let it happen. The rest of us, well, we got to put in some work, or we end up alone every Saturday night.
It's interesting because you're right. There are some people who seem to meet people wherever they go.
Look, some people are on the receiving end of so much sexual attention, and I'll lump the guys in here too. Some people they just naturally get opportunities to go out on dates. Now, if you're in that particular category, maybe you don't even acknowledge why you are that fortunate. You might be taking it for granted. You might assume it's your sense of humor when actually your sense of humor is pretty lousy, and it's something else that's attracting all these people to you. However, if you're not on the receiving end of offer after offer to go on a date, if you're spending more time alone than you should be, then stop waiting for it to come to you. You're just going to have to go after it and put your ego aside.
So one of the resolutions for single people is make an actual effort to go to seek out potential relationships.
You have to make it a priority. Bottom line, you have to say, what's my priority this year? If my priority is to find someone to date that I really like, you have to make it a number one priority, and that means all of those hobbies of yours that you use to pass the time. Well, for this year, that's a waste of time. You like to collect stamps? That's a fantastic hobby. Put it in hiatus for the next 12 months because all of the time that you're spending there, spend it going out meeting new people.
Unless you can do it in a group thing, right?
Well, if you do it in a group thing and that's not working to help you meet new people, that's where you say, okay, I'm wasting my time if I come back to this group thing related to my hobby. If the hobby is not bringing you closer to meeting someone, ditch it, find something else.
Right. Somebody texted in, shyness is a killer. Swallow it and approach. So there's a resolution. If you happen to be shy, and I know as a dating coach, you see a lot of very shy people, right?
You wouldn't believe the amount of people who are really great relationship candidates. When you look at them on paper, you can't. It boggles the mind how somebody that good looking, that friendly, that nice, that compassionate, that caring is still alone. And it's really unfair. But the bottom line is, if you are too shy to even talk to somebody and let them know what it is you have to offer, you're going to end up alone.
So the resolution is?
The resolution is, rather than push yourself just to go out and have an interaction, pushing a shy person to have an interaction can only cause them even more pain and further increase the shyness. So what I would do with somebody like that is I would sit down and I would teach them conversational skills. I would say, tell me about yourself in an intriguing way. Tell me about some of the favorite memories you have as a child. Tell me about some of the hopes and dreams and things that you're passionate about. Teach them how to talk. Teach them how to communicate. And then, through having that skill set, that's when you send them out to meet new people, because they'll at least have the confidence to know that they have an interesting story to tell.
Right.
If all you do is push a shy person to approach, the end result, and I've seen this time and time again with approach coaches who basically just push shy people, come on, go approach that person, go approach that person. The result is always the same. They end up going into their shell even more than prior to that exercise.
Because it's almost like traumatizing them in a sense, rather because
Absolutely.
they're going into something and they're not armed with anything. We're going to continue this, Frank, in just a moment, and some relationship resolutions for single people. Tonight on the program, we are talking about resolutions. We always have to do something of the sort in the new year, begin the year on the right foot, and to talk about relationship resolutions or dating resolutions for single people, I've invited Frank Kermit on the line with us. He's a dating coach to talk about what single people can do differently, what they can resolve to do. Now, we were talking about shyness, Frank, and somebody texted in, I was one of those daters, and I always found solo activities was great, cooking classes, volunteering, and learning something different. Make yourself stand out a bit, and shyness dissolves. What do you make of that?
If that's what worked for that person to initially take the classes and get more comfortable with their own skin, going out and doing things they're interested in, if that worked for that person to combat shyness, power to them. That's a fantastic thing.
But getting out of the house, that's the thing, is that this person did different things. So they did get involved so that they could, taking cooking classes, volunteering. You are socializing when you do things like that.
And I believe the person, the way they wrote it, indicated that they did it with the intent that they wanted to be a dater. They did it with the intent of, I'm not just going to pass the time here. I'm not going to just fill the void. I'm doing this with the intent of meeting new people so that I can go out and date and be a more interesting person.
Right. Text message here from someone that I guess we could both answer this. I'm 20 years old and I'm strongly in love with a 16-year-old. Is it dangerous to be in love with a 16-year-old? Now, just legally speaking, the age of sexual consent is 16. So a 16-year-old can actually go out with anybody of any age as long as they are not in a position of power over them. As long as that 20-year-old is not the 16-year-old's coach, babysitter, whatever at some point. Like there's no position of authority over them.
With that said, the fact that the 16-year-old is a minor, aren't they restricted from certain sexual acts?
No, because the sexual consent is 16. I mean, if you're talking about anal sex or things like that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, nobody, actually the age of consent for anal sex is 18, believe it or not. You're right. But who's checking that?
Well, couldn't a parent, if they find out their 16-year-old is having anal sex with an adult, couldn't they bring up...
They could. They
could bring up charges.
They could. I don't think I've ever heard of it happening, but potentially I suppose they could. But the age of sexual consent is 16 years old. Used to be 14. It was raised to 16 just recently. So... I don't know if this person, what they mean by dangerosity in terms of, what would be dangerous about it, but what I would think would be dangerous would be the father of the 16-year-old would be the most dangerous part of it.
Well, one of the concerns I would have is that a lot of practices that a lot of young people are engaging in, when you're involving a minor, it carries additional consequences. If you're
like drinking or things like that, you're talking
drinking,
about, right?
Sexting, taking photos of yourself, because if under
that's
18,
true. Mm-hmm.
That's child pornography.
Yes, it is.
If she takes a photo of herself and sends it to her boyfriend,
he can be charged.
They can be charged with possession of child pornography. So
good point.
Right. Personally, I've always said, if the person's a minor, stay out.
Right. So just minor meaning under 18, period.
Anybody under 18, if they're a minor, just don't bother.
Right. So because, like you said, I think there could be other potential problems. That it's not just about the sexuality. There could be other things going on as well.
The things around it that people don't recognize would be illegal. Some couples, for the sheer novelty of it, make a sex tape. Well, if one of the people involved is under 18, even if they can legally give consent for sex, they're making child pornography whether they intend to or not.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I just think,
And the 20-year-old, unfortunately, would end up, the 16-year-old wouldn't necessarily do jail time, but I can tell you that the 20-year-old would.
yeah, and that's something that stays on your record. It doesn't matter that it's consensual. Once it's on your record, you are now a registered sex offender for the rest of your life. It's
Right.
it's not worth the risk.
Right.
If it's true love, you can afford to wait 2 years, and in the meanwhile, both of you date other people.
Of your own age.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, that's pretty sound, safe advice. It's playing it safe, that's for sure. And I definitely agree with that. So we're talking about relationship resolutions and things that single people can do. So we talked about, getting out there, stop wasting time. Any other major one that you want to discuss with our listeners?
What we just said, don't date a minor under any circumstance,
Okay.
just to stay safe. I would think that if you are currently dating somebody, casual or serious, if you know that that's not the person you're going to marry or get into a more long-term relationship, you might want to ease off spending so much time with them. So if you're dating somebody casually, but you're seeing each other, 2-3 times a week, maybe you're going to bring that down to only once a week so that you both have the time off to date other people. If your goal is to meet somebody for something more serious, then that's what you do. If your goal is to continue to date casually, if you're with somebody and you see that they're putting in more commitment and more energy and more attention, if they're saying, I would really like to, get more serious and introduce you to my family, if you're not on par with that, if you're not on the same level, set them free.
Right. Make it a point of being honest and stating exactly what it is that you are looking for. I think, the resolution to be honest is important in relationships. I find so many people skirt issues and avoid, and they don't tell it like it is. They don't say what they really are thinking or wanting.
And in some cases, they're right not to want to share full information because there are some things you shouldn't be sharing with somebody you've just met and started to date. There's some information they don't need to know.
No, except that your motivation for the relationship is what they need to know. That's the honesty I'm talking about. If
Absolutely.
You know you're only interested in a casual relationship, but the other person may want more, and you neglect to tell them that, that's being dishonest.
Yeah,
right. You call it unethical, I call it dishonest, but same thing.
100%.
That's the kind of honesty I'm talking about. So I guess your word is better. Ethical dating.
Well, the reason I use the word ethical is because I've had people come to me in dating and they're struggling with the issue of honesty, saying, I want to be an honest person, but I don't want to share certain stories of my life with somebody I've just met and that I might break up with in 6 months.
Right.
And that's why I frame it as be ethical.
Which is different than honest.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell them be honest because then sometimes people interpret that as I got to be honest about everything, and they just would rather either stay out of dating or they reveal too much to the wrong person.
We've been talking relationship resolutions tonight and dating resolutions in the second half of the program with Frank Kermit, dating coach and of franktalks.com. Frank, one last tip, one last resolution or something to think about for our daters out there.
Here it is. Embrace your singleness. Have no shame about wanting to meet someone new. People act ashamed when they say, well, I'd really like to meet somebody because they are afraid to come across as desperate or creepy or they're afraid they're going to come off like, oh, you needy.
Right,
and
needy.
Forget all that. Be proud of the fact that you want to meet somebody.
And tell everyone you know. I tell all my friends, please tell everyone you know that you're looking. There's no shame in it.
And when they do present you with someone,
do
one date.
That's right. Give one date. Frank, thanks so much. We'll catch up with you, I believe, on next Monday for the Boys Club and, of course, our usual dating dilemmas at the end of the month. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us yet on another night, Frank. Appreciate it.
I thank you for breaking the new year in with me.
Thanks, Frank. Bye.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.